Today's alumni career story is from Annet Aris, who is INSEAD's Professor of Media Management, also serves as a board member on companies in Germany, Finland and the Netherlands, including a German cable company, a Finnish newspaper group, a large insurance company and a German forklift truck manufacturer. Welcome, Annet. You were a partner at McKinsey for more than a decade, until 2003. Did you have this kind of portfolio of non-executive roles as your goal when you left McKinsey?
Actually, what triggered this was a very silly thing. I was invited for a senior woman alumni meeting at INSEAD. And so that was for women who'd been at INSEAD and who had kind of been successful. And at that meeting, I met my old dean, that was Gabriel Havavini. And I started talking to him. And, you know, like many INSEAD alumni, he said to me, I said to him, you know, I've always dreamt of coming back one day and teaching here. And he said, you know, that you're not the only one, but if you would teach, what would you teach about? And he said, and I said, well, you know, I can teach about how to be a good consultant, but I can also teach a lot about the media industry because that's what I've been doing the last 5-6 years as consultant. And he said, well, that's a really nice coincidence because I got some demand from students that they wanted to have a course on media companies. And so, can you teach more than one session? And, you know, and then I got challenged and said, of course I can teach more than one session. And he said, well, why don't you make me a proposal?
And the course was a great success and very enjoyable, as I remember. But how did you go from teaching a course to serving on all these boards?
First of all, maybe taking a step back. I think what is really important is, of course, I've been working, you know, really, really very hardly, intensely for 17 years and learning enormous amount of stuff. And so that you need a real basis. It's not just, you know, meeting the right people or taking the right initiatives. If you don't have a basis in itself, it won't work. So what I did when I started teaching at INSEAD, I created this, what I would say, advisory board of media managers across Europe, which I thought were really shaping the industry, and then had them come over as guest speakers to INSEAD, which was really nice. But by them coming over, we actually got to know each other quite well. And so my very first board, which was Media Capital in Portugal, which is like was the leading media company there, and which was owned by a fantastic entrepreneur who's also an INSEAD alumnus, Miquel Paes do Amaral. And he was one of my guest speakers, and he actually asked me to join that board.
So you did a couple of these and you liked the experience. Did you then proactively seek out more of these board positions?
I lived in Germany for many, many years, and I decided to go back to the Netherlands. And then I actually actively went to see if, you know, 1 or 2 headhunters, just to, you know, tell them about my profile and what I was interested in. So, and that, you know, I got called, which out of the blue by Egon Zehnder for to become a board member of the Opta, which is the Dutch regulatory authority for telco, and, you know, like the how you call it again in the United Kingdom, the Ofcom, exactly, so the Dutch Ofcom. And so that was really through headhunters. So 1 or 2 things really came because they put me on lists, to be honest.
Do you think boards work differently when there are more women on them?
I actually I have a few boards where I'm really the only woman, like, you know, this German forklift truck company, which is, you know, a lot of German engineers and, you know, very nice board. But I'm also in a few boards where we have 50% women, which is exceptional. And I must say it's a real joy. And actually I had, a few months ago, I had this really interesting experience in one of the communities. There was some merger and acquisition talk, and it was really about, you know, to what extent should we go along with certain things or not. And you saw this amazingly clear divide between the women and the men. Which, you know, the men were much more, you know, we want to be part of the hunting pack, and the women were, oh, we didn't agree on this, and these are our boundary conditions. And so we actually got in an extremely interesting discussion, and then we came to compromise, which was, I think, really good. It was, you know, not going, you know, being too eager, but at the same time, I guess the women were being too conservative.
Thinking about alumni who are maybe mid-career, working hard, head down, is there anything they can be doing to prepare themselves for this kind of interesting portfolio, non-executive kind of career?
normally if you have an interesting job, it takes a lot of your energy. And if you talk about this mid-career, very often you have a couple of young kids, which take the rest of the energy, or the other way around. So I also, it's not, I think that's a phase in life where you just have to kind of accept there's only two things you can really do and do well, and not start feeling guilty that you don't do the other things. If you have a bit of energy left, I think it's really good to, do some boards. Like, I was on the board of the school of my kids, and I founded this foundation which was helping a children's village in Romania. And so, to do things which kind of give you, some board experience, but on a very small scale, and that kind of helps you to, to build up a bit of the experience.
We've just had some European legislation about women being represented on boards. It got diluted, but still companies should be looking for more women. What can women be doing to make themselves findable?
I do think, you have to be realistic of, what do I bring, and do I have enough experience and enough insight to, to be a board member in this type of companies. And so be selective. A board member is not, being a board member is a profession in itself. And you really need to know what you're talking about. So I found it very different, being a board member in media companies than being a board member in an insurance company. I was very happy I started doing that only after I'd already been a board member for 4, 5, 6 years. And so I could learn a new industry building on my experience as a board member. But so in the beginning, you really have to start focusing on industries or things you know, and where you can really add some value, where you can build on your insights, your knowledge, and your expertise. And then I think there are 2 routes to go. The one is through your industry network. And what I did, I started relatively small, which is companies 100, 200 million turnover, which is nice because you can really get your hands around the company, you can really understand what's going on. And then, from then, it's easier to step up to the bigger ones. INSEAD has this great initiative where they created this list of INSEAD alumni, female alumni who are, who are ripe to start with board positions. Many people go to these, many business schools are offering courses for new board members where you basically learn the tools. It is not guaranteed if you go to a course like that you become a board member, but at least you have something concrete in your hands.